Here are signs that your soul is spiritually dehydrated, along with practical tips on how to hydrate it. You are fatigued and don't know why. Not all fatigue is physical. Mental and emotional fatigue are real and prevalent in our stressful world today. Spiritual fatigue is exhausting, deliberates over time, and can even be physical in nature. Things as simple as getting enough rest, staying off your phone or computer at night, and ensuring a consistent bedtime routine can help you feel well and rested, but that might not be the root of the problem. Sometimes spiritual fatigue is the rut we fall into by doing the same thing even though we find that they are no longer fruitful in the same ways. When this happens, it makes sense to mix things up in order to get rid of them and gain something new. If we don't do that, it can be a slippery slope in the wrong direction. If we begin to feel fatigue of soul for any reason and fail to address it, it can become physical exhaustion that we don't even understand. Neglecting important self-care can cause spiritual fatigue over time. Be sure you are taking time for yourself and time to be with the Lord, time to refresh and rejuvenate spiritually. A busy life can lead to spiritual fatigue when we don't protect that time. Spiritual hydration will also recharge us intellectually, emotionally, and even physically because our souls animate our bodies, giving them true life. Find rest for your soul by doing something that brings peace to your busy life. These things and others can support our souls with something that lifts and fills them. We engage our hearts and minds in ordering them towards whatever our soul needs. You are irritable and easily lose your peace. Irritability comes from a dissatisfying circumstances or an unmet need. When we are in need of spiritual hydration, we may not recognize that we are lacking, but deep within the soul is speaking and promising us to something more or something different because something important is missing. This missing something could be solitude prayer, even a little time outdoors in the sunshine every day. Nature is one of the greatest gifts God has given us to reconnect with Him. He made it for us to delight in and enjoy. Most of us can't take extravagant journeys, but we can step into our yard, close our eyes, and listen to the birds and feel the sun on our faces. We can look up in the trees or at the spring in the blossoms. We can look at the pretty white snow on the ground or just the beautiful green grass. Nature can and should lead us back to our Creator in awe. Perhaps doing something physical, relaxing, or enjoyable will bring peace to that translation and ease of heart, helping you open yourself to new things that rejuvenate your soul. This small step can become a stepping stone to God in time of spiritual exhaustion. You find yourself reaching for the wrong things. The wrong distractions aren't always unhealthy things like alcohol, drug, or overspending. We may be forming an addiction or unbalanced resistance to something good, like exercise, working, or even doing things for others. We might be doing things so that we don't have to stop and think about what's missing from our spiritual lives. Start by slowing down and reawakening your senses of the God who loves you. We can do that with anything that brings us peace, from spiritual readings to trying a new recipe to sitting with the Lord or journaling can be a great first step, if that's where you are. Sometimes we have to start by figuring out, and then we can work through it. You are multitasking to a fault. Our culture is one of the constant multitaskings. We are juggling so many balls so often. There are many value aspects to this skill, but taken to the extreme, it removes us from the present moment and adds to our strain and stress. Life feels so exhausting because we aren't stopping to recognize its beauty and experiencing gratitude for its blessings. We are juggling as fast as we can and missing the good stuff. Try to live in the present moment. Tell yourself, I will be here now. Stop the juggling. Start by taking 10 minutes a day to be here now. Whenever you close your eyes and talk to God first thing in the morning over coffee in the quiet kitchen, gaze at a crucifix or a beautiful piece of art, bathe and rock your little one, step outside the office at lunchtime and listen to the birds or sit quietly with your spouse. Be in the moment and thank God for the gift of it, noticing all the grace within it. Choose or make a moment of quiet for yourself, then focus your senses on the beauty and graces in that moment. This gets you back to self-care and helps you press the pause button at regular intervals to restore your peace. You fill your life with noise. When there are opportunities for you to seek solitude, do you shrink from that? Filling the space with noise instead. Social media, music, podcasts, the company of other people, any noises will do, right? If this sounds familiar, silence and solitude may be what you need to refresh your soul and recharge. Instead of filling quiet time with static, start by setting aside 10 minutes to meditate on something quietly. Beauty can be a great way to start. It can help us step back in joyful appreciation for what God has given. Spend 10 minutes meditating on a beautiful piece of art or a single story from sacred sculptures, like a candle, and sit in silence. Or sit in a warm bath, pray a rosary, asking for God to come to you and fill your soul with his peace and love. Stare at crucifix and tell God thankful you are. Recommit it doing something small in quiet solitude for just 10 minutes every day. You feel off balance or you remove yourself from group activities. Sometimes when we know something is wrong but we can't get to the bottom of it or are not ready or willing to dig deep enough, we begin to shrink from the company of others, especially those who have most inspired us and are the best role models for us in our spiritual lives. Somehow, the soul knows what we have not fully acknowledged in our minds, and without recognizing why we may feel guilt, intimidation, defensiveness, or even frustration at the edging example of loved ones who are living spiritually fruitful lives. This is really the last thing we should do when our souls are in need of rehydration. But it happens because our emotion, pride, or wounds lead us there. If you aren't quite ready to rejoice your prayer group, Bible study, or other group activities, then read about the lives of saints and the exciting elements of the church that reminds you of the gift and mysteries of our faith. Find inspiring topics that you know will hydrate your soul, new things you might not otherwise take time to enjoy, but are curious to step into. Listen to a great spiritual book or series, podcast, watch a spiritual movie, research more about spirituality. Trying something altogether new will help you extend yourself. The variety can rehydrate your soul in a time of spiritual fatigue. As soon as you can, of course, make your way back to those who edify and encourage you. Ask these important people in your life for prayers and support. Don't deny them the blessings of helping you. Your decisions, even small ones, feel complicated. We are overwhelmed and dehydrated spiritually. That spills over into our everyday lives and affects us. We may experience the overwhelming of the normal day of life and the inability to do easy things that we did in the past, not so easy now. Many choices, even small ones, can overburn us. There's much to be said for the moment of minimalism and simplifying our lives, but depending on our station in life today, we may only be able to go so far. Clear out what is not needed, not just from your closet or your attic, though purging your spaces can often be incredibly feeling. Can you eliminate commitments on your calendar that overextend you? What worries and gives you anxiety can you entrust more fully to God's care? By freeing yourself from what weighs you down, you create space for peace and interior freedom. Think of the margin on a piece of an old-fashioned notebook paper. Instead of overfilling your page and leaving no white space, try to expand the margins. When you make margins into your life, you make room for God, helping you feel liberated, less burdened, and renewed. You feel like you've lost the sweet spot. Something is missing. Whatever it was that once filled you, brought you joy and contentment, or gave you peace of mind and heart, just seems to have evaporated, or at its best, it comes and goes, often at random, and you don't know how to recapture it. That interior peace of soul is the only confidence that trusts that you are where you are meant to be in the moment, and that you are aspiring to be in the center of God's will. When we don't feel this, we become destabilized. There are times when speaking to a trusted counselor to unburden ourselves is a great remedy. If this does not happen in confession or you need more help, considering making an appointment with your spiritual teachers, therapists, and so on, and ask for advice and prayers. In recent years, therapists and others have begun to use the term soul exhaustion to describe what I think of as a spiritual fatigue. I am not a therapist. I don't have a psychology training, but the term soul exhaustion seems somehow void of hope. Every spiritual life has its rich, fertile times and its arid times, but we cannot stand still in the adversity or it will weaken our faith and set us back. We can start rejuvenating and rehydrating our souls with these small things, and they will be stepping stones to others. When we recognize those seasons of spiritual fatigue, we can bring hydration to our souls in order to rejuvenate and awaken them once again into the fullness of His love.